SpongeBob, even though the series itself has pretty much gone downhill since season 4, it kinda makes me wonder if there's any other lost episodes out there from the earlier seasons. No, I said from the earlier seasons. There are 2 parts to this pasta, both written by different people, and it surely shows. The first part explains what's in the video, and the second part explains the backstory to how the video got created in the first place. The first part is just an average pasta at that. It's just simple crying, scary pop-ups of SpongeBob, Gary the snail lying in its own pool of slime, and the individual going crazy after watching said video. It also ruins the individual's computer, not unlike in Dead Bart, but at least it's explained that it was running on a very old PC, and that the individual got to work on his or her Apple computer. The second part is when things really start to roll. Said individual's friend looks at the video, realizes that it's not Tom Kenny doing the voice of SpongeBob in said video, and they end up traveling to LA to get some answers, where they find out that a manic depressive woman is behind this demented episode. This pasta is much more organized and expands on the original. It explains the woman's motives to make such a horrific video of SpongeBob, and also adds new characters and settings. Also, unlike other pastas, it's not cliche-rated to the core, and it even has a happy ending for the protagonist. Not many pastas end like that, so it's definitely welcome here. If you get a chance to, you should give the SpongeBob pasta a chance. The first one's kind of meh, but the second one definitely makes it up for that. You know those old SpongeBob episodes you used to watch back in 1999 from season 1? But recently, a secret episode has been discovered from that time period. The other day, I was searching through my computer when I came across a notepad document deep within System 32. Having no way how it got there, I scanned it for viruses. It had one Trojan on it. I deleted it and opened it up. All that was printed on it was one website link, followed by the following gibberish. Having not a single clue what it meant, I continued by putting the site link, which I won't tell you in case anyone out there is fucking stupid enough to try it, into my web browser. It took me to a site where it was just a black background and it had a huge button. It had the same text on it that was in the notepad document. I clicked it and it brought me up to a download link. The file that wanted to be downloaded was called Spongecry.avi. As crazy as I am, I went ahead and downloaded it. Big mistake. The second the download finished, which was 4.6 megabytes might as well add, my computer made the weirdest sound ever and turned off. I tried to reboot it, nothing happened. The file must have destroyed my computer. As upset as I was, I realized I was on my old home PC. I hopped over onto my Mac and re-downloaded it. This time there was no problem. What downloaded was the single AVI file. I played it. The movie clip was 6 minutes and 4 seconds long. It started out as any SpongeBob episode would, except the color was distorted, and when he got to playing the flute with his nose, he immediately went to the title screen. All that was on the title screen was the following words, SpongeBob Cry. Only there wasn't any jaunty music like there usually was. It lasted about 2.5 seconds. It didn't show who the writers or directors were. I just assumed that whoever put it online had to edit it for time or something. The episode started out in SpongeBob's house. It showed SpongeBob in his red chair. The strange thing was, all of his furniture was gone. SpongeBob was crying, very hard, but it didn't sound like anything like it does when SpongeBob normally cries. It sounded like a real human cry, but it was different. It sounded so real and intense. SpongeBob was absolutely bawling. He was ripping chunks out of the chair. Then the camera zoomed really close on his face, but it was like the kind of zoom as if it was being videotaped by a real person. Then the camera zoomed out to show a rotting corpse of Gary lying on the floor in front of him. It was very disturbing. Gary was absolutely mauled to death. His eyes were laying on the floor. His shell was cracked to reveal a very gross image of the inside of Gary, which looked a whole lot more like what really had happened in the episode where Gary loses his shell. The camera was moving around like crazy. SpongeBob suddenly got out of the chair and went straight forward. The episode stops moving for about a second, and then it goes black for 2 seconds. Then it comes back with SpongeBob's face pressed against the camera, with his mouth exploded open and eyes black, and a deafening loud scream. I jolted up and turned my volume down, and then the camera starts moving around like insanity. You couldn't even tell what was going on. It was worse than anything Pokemon could ever put out. The clip then goes black for 1 minute and 38 seconds. It comes back, inside the Krusty Krab, dead silent. All of a sudden, the same face that was pressed against the camera appeared, but this time, the scream was literally deafening loud. But it only lasted for about 1/4 of a second. Then, for the rest of the movie, it goes back to SpongeBob crying in the chair. but after every 10 seconds, SpongeBob just got a little bit more decayed, and the sound got a little more destroyed. By the end, all there was left is static and screaming. Then you can see SpongeBob running again in the background of the stack. But for the last 4 seconds, there is text on the screen that reads, time action will be badly. One-timed action will be badly. Exactly that, as if it was written by a preschooler. After the clip finished, my computer shut down. After seeing this video, I have never been the same. I've been angrier, crueler, and more anxious than ever before. It has haunted my mind all the time. I regret downloading the video in the first place. I just wish I can go back and Well, it's only been 2 years since I viewed Spongecry.avi, and I'm far from recovering from such a shock after viewing the clip. My computer's been taken to Best Buy for repairs, and to hopefully have the Spongecry video eliminated from my PC forever. Hopefully, it will not haunt the doorsteps of my mind ever again. I should be getting a call from them by the end of this week, if not longer. That would do my well-being a world of good to see that godforsaken video of SpongeBob crying and turning into a decomposing mess every 10 seconds gone forever. But one question lingers after I looked at the video clip that day. Who the hell wrote one-time action will be badly anyway? I went to a hacker friend of mine who was able to translate the gobbledygook that was in the video, and maybe he could tell me what it meant. He was much braver than I was to view Spongecry.avi and asked me to leave the room. 17 years old and had a lot of valor. After all, he was my best friend and he was willing to do anything. I heard him say, "Dude, it's fine. You can come back in. The video's not playing." After deciphering the text from the original Spongecry video, which was indeed written in the style of a preschooler, here's what he said: "One-time action will be deadly." I looked at him skeptically. What does that mean anyway, I asked him. The voice I heard on the video, that as SpongeBob crying, was not Tom Kenny at all, he replied. Well, that's fine dandy and everything, but what the hell does that have to do with the text you just translated? He picked up his bottle of Pepsi that he had been just drinking, took a swig, and placed the Quincy wet bottle on his desk. "Dude," he said calmly, "I am game to that. Don't worry. The shady-looking scribble I saw that looked like it was written by a preschooler. It's too real to be CGI, or used in any video editing software. It was written by a person in an actual animation cell, which will explain why the Crayola crayon line looked too real." We hit the road from Malibu to Los Angeles City looking for answers. My friend was planning to have the video analyzed and to piece together the puzzle from when that video was made. "So that wasn't Tom Kenny's voice?" I asked him, as I watched the sun go down the Malibu horizon as we drove. After all, it would be 50 minutes until we reached Los Angeles. "It was a woman's voice. Tom Kenny himself would not break down and cry that real intensely when he was doing any episode of SpongeBob. When you see SpongeBob crying in any episode, you know it's comical. But the woman who was heard crying in place of Tom, something didn't seem right," he said. After going to the police with the story, here's what they said. On this one episode of Spongebob Squarepants, Tom Kenny, who never missed a voice acting session in his life, took a sick leave and the episode was put on hold. A woman in her mid-20s, the same voice heard in the Spongecry video, claimed she was a family member of Tom, and she said that she could do any SpongeBob character voice known to man, especially SpongeBob, and asked the production crew, even Steven Hillenburg, the show's creator, if she could fill in for Tom while he was out sick. They didn't see any harm done in that. But the one weird thing I couldn't put my finger on is, why would this woman ask the animation and audio crew to leave the room? Did she want to do this herself? Was she really that talented at animating and voice acting? Sure seemed like it, since nobody was allowed to enter the recording studio where the voice actors went, and since it was soundproof, this gave the woman a lot of time to do the cartoon. I also found that the cartoon was originally going to be no Weenies Allowed, but this young woman had entirely different plans for this episode. She looked at the script, where she stood near the microphone where Tom Kenny originally stands, was about to say her lines, and then for no apparent reason, she starts breaking down, crying, screaming as if she was crying over the loss of a loved one, or finding a family member dead from a heart attack. Again, nobody bothered her, nobody came into the studio, and what seemed like an eternity was actually about 9 minutes. The woman came out of the studio, looking and acting normal, even though she had teary-looking eyes, and ran into Bill Fagerbeck, the voice talent behind Patrick Star. Fagerbeck asked her, "You okay?" She told him that she had tears from when she was laughing too hard after reviewing the finished episode, and then smiled. Bill chuckled and commented on her doing a good job. And that was the end of the day. My friend's mother, who worked as a phone tapper for the LAPD, was able to identify the voice. The voice he heard in the clip was the ex-girlfriend of one of the animators at the Nickelodeon Animation Studio. She had been stuck in the anime after he had gotten married. When he blew her off too many times, her actions became more and more erratic. She even went so far as to kill and disembowel her poor dog. Other officers caught and arrested her for animal cruelty and stalking, my friend's mom told me. But why did the clip only last a near 7 minutes? And the hand-washing done by a preschooler, what about that? I asked. That message was written by the woman's 3-year-old son, as per her request. The cartoon itself was supposed to last 30 minutes like any other Spongebob episode. The other half of the episode became lost in the internet. It could be anywhere. The police commissioner who came into the office was carrying a cup of coffee for me, a soda for my best friend, and a bottle of water for my friend's mom. I overheard you talking about the lost SpongeBob episode that was supposed to be filmed in place of no Weenies Allowed, he said, giving us our drinks. What do you know about the cartoon, I asked. I was feeling tired and hungry. The coffee he gave to me should be able to perk me up during this time. I felt like that I wanted to sleep for a damn year. Rumor has it that the cartoon never aired and no Weenies Allowed was shown instead, which was a big load off everyone's shoulders. My 2 little daughters are big SpongeBob fans, and so am I. Anyway, I was reading an article on Yahoo which said that the cartoon you were talking about got circulated via mobile text message. So if that's the case, and anyone who finds it, we can put an end to this mess, the police commissioner said. At that moment, where I thought that everything was working out fine, I felt my stomach froze as I noticed a message display on my iPhone. One missed call. I was about to brush it off and thought that it was just another telemarketer trying to sell me something, until I noticed the attached item that came with the message. What is it, man? My friend asked. He noticed the look of concern and confusion on my face. I think I found the cartoon, I replied. My voice nearly faded. Open the video, the police commissioner said calmly. My friend's mom was anxious to see the other half of the cartoon. After the video roared to life, it didn't resume like a video that you would see on YouTube where you go to part 2 or whatever. It showed the regular introduction, with Panty the pirate being his old jolly self, kids singing the Spongebob Squarepants theme, and Spongebob playing the flute with his nose. After the Created by Steven Hillenburg byline was displayed, I didn't hear any music, just the sound of a heartbeat. Then very faintly, various news report audio clips.
Authorities continue to release details of the murders. They still have no explanation as to why it all happened.
I heard then the sound of a woman weeping softly. This was starting to get a little scary. The clips continued.
The medical examiner says he expects to positively identify most victims. A file cabinet in the refrigerator and open boxes. The police department continues to be flooded with calls from families and missing loved ones. Says he's killed even more. Arrested on suspicions of mass murder. Some of these murders at least have been committed outside of city limits.
The title screen came up. Spongebob Cry 2. A fucking sequel. Just as I remembered, SpongeBob in his big red chair, all the furniture gone, poor little Gary lying dead, lifeless, and mauled beyond recognition. I wanted to cry because I saw Gary dead. Poor little fella. My heart hurt for him, but I just tried to remain calm. As SpongeBob continued to get more and more decayed, looking like a purified mess after every 10 seconds, he became uncried. He stopped, turned, and looked at the viewer. His skin was already a mucky-looking mess, and he looked like carrying on wearing his trademark shirt, shoes, and a little red tie. All SpongeBob ever did in the first video was cry, but now he started to speak.
So this is what it will take to talk to you, Evan.
Evan was the name of one of the animators at the Nickelodeon Animation Studio for SpongeBob.
Why could it have been you to ask me as your wife instead of Stephanie? She doesn't love you. I love you. You love that stupid dog too. More than me. I know I was stupid to turn you down in high school, but I was a stupid girl back then, and I didn't know any better. I was young and stupid. You happy? I wanted to be your lover, but I was too busy having my head up Eric's ass to even care. You're right. I was using Eric and making him look like a fool. I wanted to marry him. But I was so young and stupid. You had every right to threaten me when I was messing with you. And it was your family. It was my own damn fault for costing you a lover those years ago. I had a mental illness. But I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you were gonna hate me forever. But I guess you do, don't you? Jojo told me not to kill your beautiful dog, but I went ahead and did it anyway. I killed your mother my baby. The reason why I told Jojo about you is that I wanted her to know that how sweet you were and how much I loved you. But I guess you're never gonna love me. I do. Since I was pregnant with a child. And I knew that you were never gonna love me. I just thought I'd ruin your life by ruining your favorite cartoon.
As the lamination and commentary continued, SpongeBob would now turn into a walking dead skeleton. As the crying got more violent, he continued to talk. But as I said, that wasn't Tom Kenny's voice at all. This was a mentally insane woman who had driven away every boyfriend she ever had because of her severe manic depression. She never admitted to anyone because she thought it would make her weak and everyone would leave her, and she would go from popular to unpopular in the blink of an eye. When SpongeBob started to become a graveyard-like skeleton, the inside of his house started to decay from years of neglect, the wallpaper peeling off the wall, and Gary now a putrefied mess. My best friend, despite the fact that he remained calm, puked in a wastebasket after seeing Gary in a dark green puddle of slime and rotting flesh, and his shell was now aged.
Until you take me back in your life, Evan, I am going to continue to wreak havoc on you, the enemies, and your precious Nickelodeon series, your friends, your family, and your life in general. You don't deserve Stephanie. I'm sorry you hate me. I'm sorry you don't want me back in your life. I know we can only be friends, but I don't care if you hate me or not. I still love you. So does Georgia. So do all my friends.
The next thing I remember seeing in this salvage cartoon was as the crime became less and less intense and softened. Oddly, SpongeBob's furniture returned to his house, materializing on demand, popping back into the place for a comedical, cartoony pop sound. The wallpaper appearing on the inside of his pineapple like new. A light shining from above of the now rotted away puddle of sludge that was Gary, now bringing him back to life. While I heard an angelic heavenly choir singing and a soothing twinkling sound with stardust encircling him, returning him to his happy normal self. Gary was alive! Seeing him alive, but now on the floor where he once lay dead, was now producing his cute little snoring meows. The little guy was tired. SpongeBob himself started to come back to life, from being a rotting purified skeleton to his normal spongy self. SpongeBob was so sad, and he went over to where his sleeping snail was, gave him a kiss on one of his eyes, and walked back to his room. Still in the woman's voice, I heard her say softly through her tears,
I'm sorry.
Then a TV test pattern showed up at the end of the video after a cut to black sequence. Turns out the lovesick fatal attraction-esque woman was the one behind the Spongecry episode. She was at one point a sought-after horror film actor who just had a nervous breakdown after she had been dumped, which would explain SpongeBob turning into a ghoul. Creator Stefan Hillenberg reported the woman to the police and was scheduled to appear in court. She refused to testify against Nickelodeon Animation Studios and later committed suicide out of remorse. I was fortunate enough to delete part 2 of the Spongecry episode from my iPhone, and since this whole mystery was solved, I will be able to sleep better at night from now on. A little post-mortem advice to the lovesick girl who made Evan's life a living hell. He said he didn't want to have anything to do with you, and he is happy with his new life in life. When a guy drops your ass, no means no, bitch. The nightmare was finally over.